I'm so thrilled to be here with Patti Shene Gonzalez today. We have talked back and forth a couple times. We've emailed, but this is the first face-to-face that we've had. Welcome, Patti. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Jennifer, it's such a joy to be here. I'm so looking forward to this. I don't know if you recall, but it's been a while, but you were on my show at one point. So
It's
it's
been a,
it's
it's
fun
been
for
a
me to
while.
be on the opposite end of the microphone. It's going to be a challenge for me today, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I think it'll go just fine. Just so people know, Patty's a little nervous because she's usually the podcaster, not the interviewee, but we're going to do okay. And we've had a little technical issues. So if it sounds a little scratchy on the voice, please give us a little grace today because things just don't always work out the way we want them to. So, Patty, I was on your website and looking at your book that actually came out a couple years ago, but it's so appropriate for this time of year. It is called Cathy's Christmas Confession, which makes me right there go, what is she confessing? And I know it came out a couple years ago, but we've got a lot to talk about because not only are you an author, but you're an encourager with you have a you're a radio host, you're a blogger. You have a lot going on that I think you can offer other people. So I'm just going to step back here and let you tell all about you.
And well, I guess what folks would like to know is that all of my life I have wanted to be a writer, and you'll probably hear this from several other authors. This was my aspiration when I was younger, but then career came along, marriage came along, kids came along, and I always put the writing on the back burner. So now, as I am in my senior years, as you can see by looking at me, I am pursuing this on a very serious level and still serious to the point, though, where, in my opinion, it's still kind of a hobby. I really don't think that I am going to be a New York Times bestseller author ever. And that's not my aspiration. My aspiration is to, first of all, glorify God with what I write, and second of all, to bring blessing to my readers in some manner. So I feel like I am accomplishing that, even though I'm taking the slow road. And my first experience with actually being published was with Cathy's Christmas Confession. I think we'll discuss that later.
Yes.
As far as the podcast, that in my opinion was one of those God things that I never dreamed that I would ever be a podcaster. If you want to hear a short version of how I got into that, Jennifer, I'll be glad to share that with you and your
I would
listeners.
would love to. I'd love to hear how you got into that.
Okay. We had a pastor at my church who developed a pineal cyst on his brain. And after so many years of battling those symptoms, he just was not able to fulfill his capacity as pastor. So he left on disability status. He was not the type of person to just say, okay, I'm done. So he started podcasting. He had a show almost every day of the week. He had shows 4 different days of the week with 4 different um, focuses, I guess you'd say. Well, one day I saw him in the grocery store, and he said, I think it would be really fun. I know that you know a lot of people in the writing world, some editors, agents, authors. It would be fun if we did a podcast on writing. Would you like to do that with me? And I said, sure. So I started doing that with him. I interviewed people like, I don't know if you know Marlene Bagnall. Marlene has been the director of a writers conference both in Colorado and in Philadelphia for 27, 30 years, something, a long time. I've known Marlene for a long time. So she was one of the first people I interviewed. And from there, we did about 6 months worth of interviews. And then my pastor friend, became ill and ended up in the hospital. He was unable to do the show. I was broadcasting at his house under his, uh, what do you call it? His account with the hosting, yeah, that we had. So I was dead in the water. I mean, I didn't know the first thing about it. The only thing I did was went to his house and spoke into a microphone and interviewed my guests. So I was kind of unable to follow up with it. And in the meantime, Marlene had invited me to go back to Philadelphia to her conference to promote the show and solicit guests and all this. And I called her 2 weeks before and I said, I don't even have a show. I can't do this. And Marlene is not the type of person that believes in I can't. She said, no, she said, somehow you will figure it out. She said, you come back here, you explain to people what's going on, and you pitch your show. So I did exactly that. Got a list of several people that were interested in an interview, explained to them that I didn't know when I would be resuming the podcasting. My friend got out of the hospital, told me that he was not able to pursue it anymore, but he said, there's no reason I can't come to your house and show you how to do it. So he basically helped me set up my own account. So I restructured the show, and I wanted the first show was called Literally Speaking. I wanted a show that was under a different name since it was under my account now. And I went through all those 6 months of shows, and it seemed to me the most important thing about each person I had interviewed was that they had been in a dark place and found their way out somehow. So I thought, okay, this would be a great theme to interview people who have had a difficult time, whether it be divorce or addiction, or there's 50 different things out there under darkness that you could talk about, and how they found their way back. So I named mine Step Into the Light. And basically, that's what I do. I interview people that have either been in a dark place and found their way out, or people who, through their ministry, such as writing, other creative endeavors, music, art, you name it, or a ministry, assist others out of darkness. So that's where I'm at with that. And I started that show back in 2015, and I'm still broadcasting that on a twice a month basis now.
I think it's important that people who have that I can't or I don't know how or they get scared. I know when I was going to start this podcast, and we're in season 3 right now, I had no idea what I was doing, and I thought this is
Mhm.
it's nuts. Why would I do this? But you know, the nice thing is once you start, the things you think you can't do, once you learn them, you look back and go, "Oh, that was not that hard at all." It
Yeah,
just takes,
yeah.
delving in and learning how to do them. So,
Oh, it amazes me too, Jennifer, throughout these past 9 years, almost 10 years now, is seeing how God is at work. There have been times when I thought, oh, gee, I don't seem to have anybody on the radar. Maybe it's time to put an end to this. And at about that time, I will get an email from someone who says, just listen to your show and I have a story to tell and I would love to be on your show.
nice.
And to me, that is God's way of saying, wait a minute, I'm not done with you yet.
I
So, and the
basically the
people
same
that have,
thing.
yeah, and the people that have come to the show, some of them are just amazing. They have the most amazing, inspiring stories to tell. And I think, wow. So it's definitely been rewarding.
Oh, good. So tell us about your book, Kathy's Christmas Confession.
It's Christmas confession. I have several friends in the writing world who know that I have always wanted to be a writer. One of them called me one day and invited me into this multi-author project. The plan was that we would write a contemporary Christmas story centered around a fictitious Colorado mountain town and the community center there, where I don't know if listeners are familiar with the multi-author project uh, deal, but you basically have some of the same characters in each book, but then you can also write your own individual story. So some of my characters appear in my other two partners' books as well, but my main characters are my own. So it was kind of a challenge for me because I'd always wanted to get something out there. And the funny thing is, I had always told myself I will never write a Christmas story because I can't imagine myself writing a Christmas story, and I will never self-publish a book. Well, never say never because God often has other plans. I learned that for sure. So I was all excited about this, but I am a terrible procrastinator. And time went by, and time went by, and my date for my uploading to Amazon, I believe, was set for November 22nd, I think it was. And it got to be April and May and June. And I think it was July before I even started writing this story. And Jennifer, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what I was going to write. We had decided among us that we didn't want to write the same age group of people. So I chose an older couple. I chose a man who was a widow and a woman who was a widower. But I had no idea what I was going to write about them. And there were nights I was up to 4:30 in the morning in tears, just
Oh,
asking God, what do you want me to say here? And then slowly ideas started to come to mind. So I wrote that book, I would say, in the span of what, maybe 10 to 12 weeks.
wow. That's fat. And it's a novella, right?
It's a novella. Yeah, it's not that long. I think it's 159 pages. I think it comes out as 159 on Amazon.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of scary
So,
when you have to put together a story. And, when I first started writing, I had a story in my heart because my brother had committed suicide and he was a Christian and he
oh
had brought me to
my.
Christ and he left 5 kids behind. And so
Oh,
the
Jennifer, I'm so
story,
sorry.
it's been years now, but the story that I wanted to write because he was in the church, and you get a lot of people who will say things like, "Oh, I actually had a lady in my Bible study said, well, he's in hell, right? Because he rejected Christ by killing him."
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he was a biker for Christ. He did ministry, he did evangelism, he had gone to Thailand. He was a very strong Christian, but he had a mental illness. And so I wanted people to be able to see that just because you're a Christian, doesn't mean that you don't suffer from the same things that non-Christian people might suffer from. And so that
Exactly.
inspired the story. But then when I was done, my sister's like, well, now what are you going to write? I mean, that's the only story you have. And I kind of freaked out. I'm like, oh my gosh, now what? But then, the thing is, when you go through hard times, you use those for other stories, and God will use them. So when you freak out about
Yes.
not having a story, we all have stories in us. I think everybody who's lived any amount of life has a story in them, has something to
Yes, they
share.
do. Yes, they do. And I enjoyed once I got into the groove, I enjoyed writing the story. I got to know my characters and I felt more comfortable with it once it was finished. But the person who had invited me into the project called me, or I guess I called her, and she said, "You're not going to do this, are you?" Because she had had a couple of other people say that they were not going to do it. And I said, "You know what? I have to do this." I said, "If I don't do this now, I will feel like I have forever failed. This is a commitment that I have made, and I have to come up with something, and I will." And I did.
How many authors
With
were
God's help. Believe me, with God's help.
How many authors were in this multi-author project?
There's just three of us.
Oh, just there's so
There's
there
just three of us. Yeah.
were there supposed to be more then because people backed out, you said. So was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. The original plan was for five.
Oh, that's too bad. Well,
Yeah.
so why not? You said you didn't think you would ever write a Christmas story. Why not a Christmas story?
I just didn't think that I would be real good have come up with any real good ideas for Christmas. I'm not a real good decorator at Christmas. You know how some people go all out and they just love to put all these beautiful
That's
decorations all
me.
over their home. And okay. And you probably come to my house and say, gee, is it even Christmas? I just don't put that much out there, especially now at my age. I
Well,
have a little tiny table tree now. I just didn't see myself being able to come up with a story like that. But
I
once
could just
again,
take a
like I
story
said,
right from there, somebody who doesn't want to decorate for Christmas and then something happened. Somebody who doesn't feel joyful enough to decorate for Christmas and then
hmm
have something happen.
hmm
But I'm glad you wrote the
and
stories. Can you tell us a little bit about?
that's I can't tell you because you just hit on it a little bit. The joy of Christmas. My character's she is a widower who has she is a widow who lost her husband a couple of years ago. She notices that this gentleman that she knows him from church, she's been on a committee or two with him, but she doesn't know him real well. He is going to be spending his first Christmas without his wife. And she notices that he's just having a really difficult time. And she wants to come alongside of him and do something that will help him find joy in Christmas through his grief. And of course, it's a romance. So, of course, they end up in a romantic relationship. But that's basically what the story is about. The reason for Cathy's Christmas confession, I can't tell you a whole lot about that, or I will.
Spoiler
before you do
alert.
a terrible spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah. But essentially, Cathy believes that she is admired and loved by her community for a certain thing that she does, and it's really not that at all that endears people to her. And she has a confession to make, and I can't tell you anymore because I'll ruin the story if I do.
Well, and it's on KU, right? You have it on Kindle
It's
Unlimited.
on Kindle Unlimited. Yes, I've had it on KU, and I probably will keep it on KU. I love KU. I think it's a wonderful way for people to be able to write or to read, excuse me. And I want to give. I'm not out to make money.
Well, I think a lot.
It's
I've
a
had
terrible thing to say as a business person, I guess, but I'm out to spread a message,
well,
and
and
that's the important thing to
isn't
me.
isn't it true that you can with Kindle Unlimited, the author gets paid per page
The
turn.
author does get paid per
So
page, and
if
I
you're
have
going
to
to get
laugh.
her
I tell
book and you
people,
don't want to read all of it for whatever reason,
there
turn
you
those
go.
pages anyway. Just flip through them so she can get all the money for it. Okay. It's
I've
my,
wondered about that. I've wondered about that. Yeah. But yeah, I think KU is a wonderful thing. It's almost like a library. You
it
do the
is.
same thing when you go to the library. You read
Yeah.
somebody's book for free. You don't. They don't. Author doesn't even get any payment for that.
No.
But yeah, I'm still pretty thrilled when I get that little notice on email that Kindle was going to be putting an amount of money into my account, and I have to laugh because sometimes it's $3.45. It's like, hey, that's $3.45 I didn't have yesterday, right?
Well, yeah, see, I'm getting
So
ready
yeah.
to delve into that self-publishing side of things to see how that works out. So we'll see how that goes. But um, so and then the other thing we want to talk about, we talked about this before we started recording, and I want to say this now, and I will put this in the show notes as well as all of Patty's, like her website where you can reach her on her website. This is important, guys. This podcast will come out on November 21st. Okay. So she will have had her Christmas newsletter or November newsletter already published. However, if you will go on her website and sign up for her newsletter, even though it's already been published, she will make sure that you get entered, okay, into a chance for a $50 Amazon gift card. So this is retroactive. So even though her newsletter will already been out, she's already figured out a way where anybody who signs up, sign up for that, and then you will get put into that chance for a $50 Amazon gift card. So I will also put that in the show notes, but I want people to be aware. A lot of people will do that just because they love the chance to win something. But guess what? You'll get to know Patty, you'll get to know her book, you'll get to see her website. There are a lot of blessings. The $50 Amazon gift card, that's the least of it, people. Really.
There is a caveat to that.
Okay.
You'll find out when you get the newsletter. You need to send me a picture of you holding either a
Oh,
copy of the
the
book,
book.
your print copy, or if you have it on Kindle, you can even show me your little Kindle screen.
Okay. So a pic of her, you holding the
So
book. So if it's even on KU, you can pop it up and get the cover on there, right?
I think you can. Oh yeah, on your Kindle. Sure,
Yeah. So you have to
definitely.
send a pic of you
Yeah.
holding that book in order for you to be entered.
Mhm. Yeah. And if the person is willing to give me their permission, now if they don't want to give me their permission, that's fine. But if a person is willing to give me their permission, I would love to use those photos for promotion on social media. But some people don't like to be on social media, and I perfectly understand that. So I would like folks to identify, yeah, that's fine, or no, please don't put me on Facebook or Twitter X, whatever it's called now, or
X.
LinkedIn or whatever. So yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, that's just a marketing tool that I thought I would try
So just out of curiosity, so
because
you're
we're
not
always
writing
looking.
right now. You're talking about wanting to launch back into full-time writing or at least writing to a point where you're getting more books out. You're doing your blog post, you're doing your radio show. How do you spend your time? You're widowed, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I am. So let's backtrack because that's not true that I'm not writing right now because actually
Okay.
I have a proposal sitting on my computer that I
Oh,
will be sending out in a couple of days. But I don't think this is your bailiwick because it's a historical Western. So
Yeah,
it's
but
a little more
I put everything
contemporary.
out there. I put everything out there. It doesn't
Okay.
matter whether it's contemporary.
Okay.
I have fantasy, I have authors. I changed it. When I first started this, it was contemporary because my publisher said there's not enough out there for contemporary authors. You should do contemporary. Well, the reality is there's not a lot out there for any authors of Christian work. So it doesn't matter
Mhm.
whether it's contemporary, historical, fantasy, whatever. I have had the entire gamut of authors on here. So
Yeah.
that
Okay.
is not, I don't stick with just contemporary. I changed the name of actually Christian fiction completely. So we have
Okay.
everybody on here. In fact, I had a lovely girl. She's not a girl. She seems like a girl to me. My daughter went to it's called Rise Up Con, which is a new thing, and it was in Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, one of those, probably Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And it was all these people gathered together that are Christians to talk about. There were movies like Kevin Sorbo was there, and the people that wrote all the books like God's Not Dead, or not the books, the movies God's Not Dead, the screenplays for a lot of
Right.
these movies, they
Hmm.
were all there on a panel. There were authors all over the place. There was the man who did Disney. He did all the animation for Disney, and I honestly don't know his name, but we walked into this vendor thing, and he had a big sign that said, "I left the Lion King for the King of Kings." And he
Oh, love
does
it.
the animation now for Christian books, movies, all that kind of stuff. But there's this
Hmm.
lovely young woman there named Emily Golis, and she has been on this podcast, and she writes, I would say fantasy, but she does it with a twist. Like she rewrites classics like Les Mis, and she rewrites them
Okay.
into a fantasy story. And my daughter, who just
Yeah.
loves everything fantasy, was gaga over this young woman and bought her books and read them. And so she's a huge fan. So yes, I do have all different genres of authors on this, as long as they write Christian.
Okay. And that's part of the reason, Jennifer, to be honest, that I have not done a lot of marketing and high-powered promotion of the Christmas story, because they tell you, and there's two different schools of thought on this too, but they tell you that you should pretty much promote your genre, and mine is historical and contemporary Western. And Kathy's Christmas Confession does not really fit into that at all. So yes, I want to promote this book, but I want to be known when I get out there as a historical and contemporary Western author.
I understand that. I understand that. But
So
I also think
yes.
that, we delve into different genres all the time. So, and
Well, the more I
I'll promote
read, there's some of the big authors have said no. Write what the Lord puts on your heart.
exactly.
Don't
Well, you
worry
see,
about trends. Don't worry about this and that and the other thing. Write the stories that God gives you.
I see a lot of authors out there that are fairly well known that write across genres. I know
Mhm.
some that are writing historical fiction and they're writing contemporary romance. They're writing um, some stuff from way back, Regency type romance in the fiction market, and they're writing contemporary. So, I'm not going to worry, but I want to promote whoever I comes onto here and wants to be promoted. I'm happy to promote. So it's really doesn't matter to me. I just want to promote people, authors that are writing Christian work because I think it's important, and I think it's gotten better over the years.
Excuse me. And I
So
feel the same way on my blogs. You've noticed on the website, I have two blogs. One is Patty's Porch and one is the Over 50 Writer. And for my guidelines, I basically tell people you don't even have to have a book out there to be on those blogs. See, I'm a blogger that does it what I call the lazy way. I don't have to write the blogs. I solicit other people to do the
I
writing.
might,
But this is an opportunity for them to promote their work. And most of them have a book out there. Some of them don't. Some of them just like to write a devotional, and that's fine. I just want to promote people that like to write Christian writing and get them out there. And I have a whole gamut of different posts on there from people that talk about a darkness to light trip, uh, journey with their writing, to people that like to interview one of their characters, which is kind of a fun post to put up there. And I managed to get quite a few people that are interested in doing those posts, because everybody wants to promote their books in some way.
absolutely. I might find you might find
So
me on there pretty soon. I might go on there and fill out one of your
love
things. I'd love
love to
to.
have you, Jennifer. I'd love to have you. Just send me an email. And of course, I'm booked up to the end of the year now, but
I'm booked up to March right now, so
okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
hear you. I know
Yeah.
where it goes. Well,
Hmm.
it's been such a pleasure, Patty, having you on here and talking about all of your endeavors and your podcasting, and it's just been a real pleasure for me. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Jennifer, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope that your listeners will be blessed by this particular episode and also by all of your future episodes, and definitely by your writing. And I know they will be. Readers, listeners will be blessed by what you do. And thank you so much.
Thank you, and God bless you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.